Jean Charest is standing by. He, of course, is running for leadership of the Federal Conservative Party. Mr. Charest, thanks for the time. I know you're busy today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Hello, Natasha. By the way, it's AI.
Thank you. There you go. Perfect. That will
Anything else I can do for you?
That'll now mess it up for the rest of the next week, I'm pretty sure. So, all right,
I just
listen.
stopped laughing. I mean, really.
It's a Friday. It's allowed. Let me start off by, first of all, and we're going to talk about the budget, but I want to talk about the story that kind of made me sit back and say, wow, I guess you are going on the offensive. And I'll be honest with you, when we've talked in the past couple of weeks about your candidacy, I think we kind of agreed, you know what, it was off to a bit of a slow start. And we've said, that's because Jean Charest has been out of politics for so long, a bit rusty, but now you seem to be gathering steam. Is that how you felt, or is that just, how do you think the outside has reacted to this?
I think there's a lot of the outside, and there's a lot of the Ottawa bubble about it. I mean, they bubble in the sense that the media talk to each other, and they're in their own world. These leadership races have their own logic. In this case, it's members who are going to vote. We have to recruit new members by the 3rd of June if we want them to be eligible to vote, and then the vote happens on the 10th of September at the latest. You got to get your vote in, and in these races, Aaron, the front runner never wins. It's never happened. It's a preferential ballot, and so we're doing our strategy. It's very much on the ground. A lot of it is off the radar, but we're very confident on the progress we're making. I think we have about 1,400 volunteers. And a very solid ground game. Just came from Newfoundland, Labrador. There's 7 ridings there. We're going to do extremely well. 78 ridings in Quebec. We'll do extremely well. Ontario, we are going to pick up a big chunk of support there. So we're in good shape.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Now, up until now, I think it's fair to say you've refused to respond directly to attacks from Pierre Poilievre. He's still considered the front runner. And now I'm reading you're becoming the rule of law candidate, which strikes me as interesting within the Conservative Party, because you're suggesting that if elected, you're going to introduce something called the Critical Infrastructure Protection Act, which would make it a criminal offense to blockade, trespass, or interfere with critical infrastructure. In other words, that freedom convoy that happened in Ottawa, had you been the Prime Minister, would not have lasted more than, a day?
Well, and the expression of dissatisfaction and protesting is one thing. The real distinction is you can't block critical infrastructure of the country. It should not be allowed. And I would move on that. And by the way, that was the problem of Mr. Poilievre, who supported the blockade. And here's a guy who makes laws, changes laws, and breaks laws. And the laws of the land are not a buffet from which you can choose what you like or dislike. If you want to be the chief legislator of the country, it's a responsibility to respect laws. So my view on this is that you can't block Canada's economy. And Aaron, remember, we had a very embarrassing moment during that when the White House actually called Mr. Trudeau and said, "You want us to clean up the border?" Yeah. I mean, when another country is actually offering to come in and clean up your mess, it's pretty embarrassing. So we need to take a and by the way, rule of law, law and order happens to be a conservative value. So those are the things that I believe in.
Now, one of the other things that you've called out Pierre Poilievre for is that he lacked real-life working experience, that he was just a lifelong politician. But Mr. Charest, at his age, wouldn't the same have been true for you?
I actually had summer jobs, and I actually worked as a lawyer for him. No kidding. No kidding. I worked on the ship in the Merchant Marine, and I worked for almost 4 years as a lawyer before being elected. I have 10 years of since then private sector experience. Plus, I governed and been Premier of Quebec, and for more than 9 years. So on the experience side, I think there's no common comparison between Mr. Poilievre and myself. So I did have paychecks that had something else than a Canadian flag printed on it.
Can I just go back to the last point about being the law and order guy? You mentioned the federal Conservatives have that as sort of a key policy issue. You're dealing, it seems to me, with a party that has a lot of people who looked at something like the Freedom Convoy, if we can use that as sort of a general term, and support that idea, who are probably in Pierre Poilievre's camp. Is the rationale here for you to come out against this, that you think there's a much bigger proportion of those people, or the ones you need to sign those voter cards, who believe in what your position is as opposed to what his position is?
Well, whoever they may be, they're not running to be the leader of the party and Prime Minister of Canada. And that's the difference. And, some of the MPs may very well have gone out to see constituents. That's one thing. I don't don't fault them for that. But Mr. Poilievre supported an illegal blockade. And I don't care how much he spins it, because he's trying to unspin that by presenting it as being something else. I'm sorry, Aaron. We all saw it and saw him, and we're not mistaken by that. I think it's pretty fundamental. I mean, if you make laws, you're privileged. You can change them. You are really one of the few privileged people in the country. But it's not optional to either obey or not obey laws. If you're making laws, it's a responsibility.
I'd like to know if this new NDP Liberal alliance, if it changes anything for you, because it potentially keeps Trudeau, at the top until 2025. Does that change anything for you, Mr. Charest?
No, it doesn't change anything for me in the leadership race and what will happen after. I don't control those events, Natasha, but it's a minority parliament. Things happen. And they can sign an agreement, but I can tell you from experience, all sorts of events happen, and nowhere is it, in stone that this government is going to last to 2025. There are all sorts of circumstances could change that. If there's a leadership race, and I'll give you one example, Natasha. Let's say Mr. Trudeau leaves, there's a leadership race. I guarantee you, whoever will succeed will be very tempted to go into an election campaign very rapidly. Just, keep that in mind. That'll be on the radar screen.
Let me go, and since we're talking Liberal NDP here, the budget came out yesterday. We've heard from a variety of people. By the way, here's an interesting clip from Candice Bergen. So here was her reaction. This is only a small snippet of it, but I want you to react to that. Brian?
From our look at it, we can see it's an NDP budget. It's delivered by an NDP Liberal government.
What does that mean?
Spending. That's what it means, Aaron. We've just come out of COVID, and we're still partly in it, third year, and we've spent money like never, ever before. And I think it would have been reasonable in this budget for the government to tell us how they're going to work themselves back into a balanced budget situation, which they're not doing, A, and B, they're spending more. We have been spending, and their answer to the spending is let's spend more. Well, we need policies that promote economic growth. Because if you get more growth, you'll get more prosperity and people will have more money in their pockets. That's what's sorely missing in this budget. And it's a missed opportunity. And think of our children, our grandchildren. All of this is going to obey the laws of gravity, by the way, at one point. Someone's going to have to pay. And at one point, this will all come back to roost. And the government should have been doing the right thing by controlling spending, which will have a benefit by reducing the pressure on inflation, and then promoting policies that are going to allow us to grow the pie.
Yet some people will look at a budget like this and say, hey, we got a dental care program. It's been detailed in here, a pharmacare program, not detailed, but sort of looked at, promised, if you will. There are some good points in this budget. I think most Canadians would agree.
All of this is good, Aaron. We'd all love to have, dental, pharmacare, and a whole pile of things. The fact of the matter is, at one point, we have to afford it. We have to pay for it. It's that simple. We're already paying a lot of taxes. So put the question in another angle. How much more taxes do you want to pay to be able to get all these services? And then you'll get a very different answer. So, and these are, by the way, programs that are in areas of provincial jurisdiction. So, we're far from having actually services delivered on one hand, but on the other hand, thank God the Harper government was the one that happened before Mr. Trudeau got elected, because his management of the economy and public finances gave all this landing space, all this space for Mr. Trudeau to spend money.
So speaking of provincial jurisdiction, let's talk about Bill 96, Bill 21. How are you going to tackle things like that, and how are you going to handle Legault, who wants very little federal interference?
Well, this is provincial jurisdiction. Take 21, for example. 21 is provincial jurisdiction. It's popular. I understand that. I get that. In fact, it was on my watch that the recommendations were made to outlaw religious symbols, Natasha, and I said no. And it would have been much more popular for me to implement the recommendation, but I said no because it was contrary to the Quebec Charter and the Canadian Charter, and I didn't think it was right. When Bill 21 came out, Natasha, and I was asked about it, I said I was opposed to it, and I wasn't running in the leadership race at the time. And by the way, just with Mr. Poilievre and myself, the difference is I've said that if this goes to the Supreme Court of Canada, my government will speak to it. I mean, we're going to have a position, as we should. I mean, it's normal. We're not trying to poke a stick in the eye of the Quebec government, and we'll live and we'll work with them on the ruling of the Supreme Court if it goes there. Mr. Poilievre says that if it goes to the Supreme Court, he's not going to say anything. You know, the government of Canada will be missing in action. So there are very different views on how we handle these issues.
Last thing I want to ask, I know you have to go. With respect to the environment, I heard Jagmeet Singh speak out, and he's going to be on with us later today, because part of what he doesn't like in this budget is the fact that, fossil fuels, the Bay du Nord project, I think a lot of people thought it would not go through. Stephen Guilbeault being such an environmentalist, in fact, it has. What's your position on the environment as far as fossil fuels are concerned?
Well, we can very well support the oil and gas industry and pipelines and transition into zero emissions by 2050. Europe's position is that they need nuclear and natural gas to transition, and we should be able to do the same thing. And so what we need is an overall policy that supports carbon capture and storage, hydrogen, blue, green, biofuels, small modular reactors, and a price on carbon. Not a slogan, but a price. Our policy on carbon and climate can't be a slogan, otherwise the Conservative Party will never get elected. I did the carbon trading system with California, and we have to manage our resources in an intelligent way to make the transition. I'll give you a real-life example, Aaron. I mean, we all want electric cars. What do electric cars run with? Batteries. Now, how do you make the batteries? It's minerals, lithium, graphite, cobalt, nickel. It's copper. And where does that come from? It comes from mines. Now, are the environment groups going to be opposed to the minings that actually give you the metals, that make the batteries, that allow the cars to work? It's not a perfect world, and you need mature leadership to balance all of that out into an economic and environmental policy that makes sense. And that's what I have experience of doing.
Jean Charest, running for leadership of the Federal Conservative Party. Mr. Charest, I thank you for the time. It's always a pleasure speaking to you. Wish you nothing but luck.
Thank you very much, Aaron and Natasha. A real pleasure talking to you. And Natasha, I know it's tough working with Aaron. Be patient.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah,
Great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dad.
Okay.